Guys, the first fight card of 2021 did not disappoint. Young Max Holloway demolished Calvin Kattar. Nick and I are going to talk about that fight and why we think he's the best 145er on planet Earth right now. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So we had an amazing start to the 2021 fight season. Well, I say fight season, but it's always fight season. It's the great sport that goes year-round. But we had several weeks layoff there just before Christmas, and my goodness, what a way to start 2021. Making history. ABC, the first ever UFC card on ABC, did not disappoint. I mean, we started with 3 first-round knockouts. All 3 of the underdogs knocked out the favorite in the first round. So what an amazing way to start the card. But no sense in burying the lead here. What an amazing performance by Max Blessed Holloway. Yeah. I think he's the best 145er on planet Earth, bar none right now. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, and I don't think many people were saying that coming into this fight. A lot of people thought Kattar was going to, not even shock the world, but come in and steamroll Holloway, and everybody thought that because he lost on paper his last 2 fights that he was kind of washed up and becoming a has-been and becoming a name that people could build off of in the 145 division. People were wrong in thinking that. I think Max Holloway, what we saw him do in the octagon today was the highest level of mixed martial arts that the 145 division has ever seen. The volume, nobody can compare with that. Not even Joanna Young Jacek. Nobody in the UFC can compare with that kind of volume. And it seemed like he could have gone another 5 rounds at that exact same pace.
Absolutely. I mean, he threw over 700 significant strikes, landing almost 450 of them. We talk about dominating performances, and we talk about how sometimes, we brought it up in the Kamaru Usman video the other day, how somebody just beats the hell out of you so bad that it's even worse than a knockout at times. Max Holloway is definitely one of those fighters. I mean, 50-43 times 2 from one of the judges, or from 2 of the judges, and one of the judges had it 50-42. Sorry, 50-43, 50-43, and 50-42. That means one of the judges gave Holloway 3 10-8 rounds. And
I think they had that right.
I could have been 4.
In all of my years of watching fights, I don't think I've ever seen that large of a difference on the scorecards in MMA. And I think that, there even could have been a 10-7 round in there. I don't know what they were looking at, and I'd have to really go and look at the scorecards and see which rounds they were giving the 10-8s, because it kind of seemed like all of them, if any of them deserved to be 10-8s, all of them deserved to be 10-8s, because it was kind of the same thing, rinse and repeat for all 5 rounds. The first round was a little bit more competitive than the rest, but not by that much. And if that one was a 10-8 round, then all of them deserved to be 10-8. So Calvin, tough as nails, he deserves a lot of credit for staying through all that. And I think he's probably one of the most difficult people to finish in the entire sport after seeing that. But, Max just seemed to be in rare form. He seemed to have really found his groove, and he's moving more ferociously and tenaciously than we've ever seen.
If you can believe that. Max Holloway, who's known for his ferocity, is even more ferocious than ever. What we saw tonight was chip on his shoulder, Max Holloway. It's like, you guys forgot about me. I think he got screwed in the decision in the second Volkanovski fight. I do believe Volkanovski got the better of the first fight, and I think Max won the rematch. This Max right here finishes Volkanovski, in my personal opinion.
I think he beats everybody at 145.
Absolutely. Zabit, Ortega. I mean, you saw what he did to Ortega. Calvin Kattar was the guy that everybody was saying, okay, this guy presents something different. He's got some of the best boxing in MMA. He's got an incredible gas tank that can match Max's gas tank. The reality of what happened is Max beat him at his own game. He boxed Calvin's ears off. He beat the hell out of Calvin from beginning to end, beat him at his own game, and showed a few really nice wrinkles in his own skill set.
Yeah, I mean, he did perform perfectly as far as the boxing realm goes, but make no mistakes about it, he was mixing the martial arts very well in there. From the few times that they would clinch up together, everything looked really sharp.
The elbows.
The kicks he was throwing, the elbows, he was landing elbows like they were jabs.
Right.
He was throwing them so perfectly, and he would cover the range perfectly and throw them, and it looked so smooth. Herb Dean at sometimes gets criticized for calling fights too early, and I think now people are going to be calling that he didn't stop this fight early enough, and it's like you can't win if you're a referee in the UFC, because you either call a fight too early or you don't call it early enough. And
right.
I think that because of the way Calvin came out in the 5th round and the way he was able to still throw punches that had a little bit of weight behind him, and maybe they weren't going to take Max out, but he was in the fight, and this was a historical moment, his biggest fight to date. A main event on ABC, on Fight Island, all of the things behind it, and he still had that drive in him come round 5. I'm glad to see that the team didn't throw in the towel and let him go out on his shield like a true warrior.
Right, yeah, and I don't blame Herb for that. I think Herb did the right thing. Every time he was coming in and looking like, okay, Herb's starting to take a few steps closer now. This is looking like he's going to go ahead and call an end to the night here. Calvin would come back with a really big shot that some of them actually which landed.
Right.
So, I think Calvin did a really good job of doing just enough to not have the fight be stopped.
Yeah.
But I think this was such an exciting main event, and I've been such a big Max Holloway fan for years, and I'm so glad to see him come out and reestablish himself with a performance like that. If anybody shouldn't have to reintroduce themselves, it's Max Holloway, but for whatever reason he has.
Yeah.
He's won one of his last, I think he lost to Dustin, beat Frankie Edgar, and then lost to Volkanovski twice. So if you look at his record on paper over the last couple of years, it's not great. But Max Holloway is still Max Blessed Holloway, and I think, and I know this is a long shot, but he said something about Conor McGregor after the end of the fight. I'm staying around. I'm going to be here just in case one of these guys drops out. Now, after a 5-round war like that, we know that's all talk. They're not the UFC. Max would probably do it. The UFC is not going to throw Max Holloway in there for the main event next week's pay-per-view
or the co-main event. But stranger things have happened. I think that if one of these guys pops for COVID and they don't have another option, he didn't take that much damage in the fight. And, for the story and the promotional side of things, they're willing to risk it. And, he's the one who gets to say if he feels up to it or not. And I think that he does honestly feel up to it. I don't want to see anything happen to next week's card, but if something does happen to the main or co-main, I do think Max deserves the shot to at least step in on short notice. And his stock only continues to go up in that situation.
Absolutely. That just shows you how tough he is. But, the thing about it is, you have the Volkanovski-Ortega fight that's coming up, and the winner of that is going to kind of dictate a lot of things.
Right.
If Ortega wins, obviously, Max is the shoe-in. With that type of performance, it's hard to not give him that. But then what do you do about Zabit? But then if Volkanovski wins, even with that performance, does the UFC take some pause and say, we've seen that this will be 3 times now. It's gone Volkanovski's way. 2 of those 3 times, at least in the judge's eyes, which is what matters. Should we let some new blood get in there, like put Zabit in there or something like that? And then does that open up an opportunity? Because Dana came out and said already, Conor's going to fight 3 times this year. Yeah. If Conor were to get past Dustin, who wouldn't? Conor's got some of the most electrifying knockouts, tremendous power in his left hand, but guess what? That left hand didn't put Max Holloway out.
Right. And he's grown a lot as a human and as a fighter since their first fight, but so has Max. Max is a big 145er. He's filled out his frame, and he's levels above where he was when he fought Conor McGregor. There's that saying where you're bigger than the sport, or you're bigger than the belt.
Right.
And that's a very rare place to be. Conor McGregor's there, Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal. They've even created a belt for Jorge Masvidal because he's such a big star. And Max Holloway may have just put himself into that category with it being on ABC, with the performance that he had. Everything just went perfectly for him. And I think that him calling out who he called out in the winner or in the replacement for Dustin, Conor, kind of putting himself into not a title fight, nothing to do with a belt or anything like that, but the number 1 contenders match at a weight class above where he is, proves that he understands that if Volkanovski gets past Ortega, which is, probably something that happens, it's hard to take the belt from the champ no matter who the champ is, that it's just not going to work for him, and he's going to have to stay active. So why not go shoot for fights that are bigger than the sport, bigger than the belt that he could be contesting for? And, I just think that was a smart call. I don't think it would have made sense for him to call anybody out at 145. And it doesn't really make sense while Ortega and Volkanovski are booked up for him to be kind of the guy screaming from the sidelines there. So I think it was really smart to attach himself to Conor McGregor. And they've got history. Him and Dustin Poirier would be, a crazy fight. I just think that maybe that performance on the platform it was at and the way he did it could have just put him into that small realm of people that's bigger than the belt. I
have to agree with you there. Yeah. But yeah, you're 100% right with the call out, because we say it all the time. If you're a fighter, you just have a spectacular performance like that. You get the camera put in your face. You've just captivated a couple million people. Say something good.
Right.
Well, there's really nothing good to say, because as far as the 145 division goes, because you have a date which is right around the corner with Ortega and Volkanovski. So you can't really call one of those guys out, because what if that guy loses?
Right.
So you're sort of caught between a rock and a hard place, and I think he handled that beautifully. It shows that Max understands the business as well as the sport. And I was already a fan of Max.
Yeah.
His stock went up in my book exponentially tonight.
Yeah, and he's a star. Make no mistake about it. The guy he can draw. Maybe not to the levels that he will be able to at some point in his career, but a couple of big fights that are obviously on their way from now, and he's not even in his 30s yet. So I think there's just the sky is the limit for Max Holloway. I do think that if he found this new form, and we're going to see a consistent version of that coming out all time and time again, then we're gonna see a belt strapped around him, whether it's at 45 or 55, or maybe one day he tries to compete for that BMF, because he's most certainly on the criteria for that.
Yeah, no question about it. Who knows if that BMF belt makes its way down to the 55 division? I think he's ripe for the taking.
Yeah,
this was really a statement performance. When you have a guy who's lost 2 in a row, even if they are a great champion like Max, and they lose a third in a row, it totally changes the trajectory of where they go from there. I want to talk about a couple of specific techniques that I saw him use in that fight that I thought were really impressive, that I haven't seen a lot of before. We know he comes forward. We know he throws a lot of punches. He was throwing a spinning back kick to the body that was landing perfectly time and time again. And he would set it up with strikes. And when he realized he was just out of range to land a good strike, he would hit Kattar with a spinning back kick that put him against the cage quite a bit. And then you noticed something, that he was throwing the push kick to the leg, sort of how John Jones throws it, but he wasn't throwing it in the way that John Jones was throwing it. He was throwing it with his toes to the inside, correct?
Oh, yeah, almost the complete opposite of the kick that John Jones does. Because John Jones he'll be standing right in front of his opponent, and he'll send his back leg and kind of hike his knee up and then send it right down at your thigh, at the front of your thigh, which makes his toes point out towards the crowd. Well, what Max was doing was, right when he would lift his leg, he would pivot the one that was on the ground, and then it would turn him almost like a karate style kick. Generally, you see that kick go up.
Right.
But for Max in this situation, he would send it up, and then he would kick kind of down. Very effective. I mean, I think
it's very disruptive.
Yeah.
If you've never sparred with somebody who does a lot of stuff like that, it's extremely disruptive to your timing. And if you're trying to come forward, and every time that Kattar was trying to get off with some exchanges, Max had either that kick there to his leg, or he had something in his face.
And that spinning back kick, he would set it up with a certain combination. I'd have to go back to actually see it, but I know there was a 1-2 involved, and that would position him well to send it. And he would close the distance and then spin and then hit it, and he hit the gut perfectly multiple times. I know Calvin was feeling those in the octagon, and he's going to be feeling them tomorrow.
Calvin Kattar, I mean, we've spent the majority of this video talking about Max Holloway, but Calvin Kattar's stock didn't go down in my eyes at all.
No.
And I know it's a cliche thing to say, but there are levels to this game, and Calvin Kattar realized sort of where he is. I find these fights to be kind of calibrating. You have a guy, we're going to see that with Khamzat Chimaev against Leon Edwards.
Yes.
We're going to have a guy who's was outside of the top 15, now is number 15, taking on number 3. A lot of people are saying 2021, he's going to be the champion.
Right.
We're going to see where does he actually fall.
Right.
And so we saw that with Kattar tonight. We see that he is a top 5 fighter, but he's not the best fighter in the 145 division.
Right.
And that's okay. He's going to go back to Massachusetts. He's going to go back to the drawing board, and he's going to get better. With a performance like that and showing the kind of heart he showed, he's going to continue to gain fans and do well in this sport.
Yeah, and Leon Edwards, to your point, Leon Edwards hasn't had the career as of yet that Max Holloway has had in his past. But the jump that Khamzat is making is twice as big as the jump in the rankings that Calvin Kattar was making to Max.
Right.
You got number 6 versus number 1. Khamzat versus Leon is number 3 versus number 15, and he only got the number 15 ranking because of his star power, and he was winning fights weight class above, so they do the little MMA math. Well, if he could beat 285ers, he could probably beat some more 70ers. So it was a weird thing, but I do
two top 15 85ers equals one top 5 70ers.
Exactly.
There's some sort of calculation they're doing in the back.
Yeah, so that fight, that definitely intrigues me. We'll have to postpone that one again, and we'll talk more obviously as that one comes up. But Conor McGregor, I think the one thing that I take away after Max called him out and after that performance is Conor's the kind of guy that loves a proper scrap, or he loves a good fight. He loves a game opponent. And I do think that if Conor remains as active as he plans to be or says he is, and kind of stays in this
focused season mindset that he's in right now.
This mindset that he's in right now, we will get a Max Holloway 2 with him. And I think that he would just do it on the pure respect, like he gives Nate Diaz pure respect.
Yeah.
Like he's giving Dustin Poirier the pure respect. And it's something that the fight fans that have been around for a long time want to see, and Conor will deliver that. And Max Holloway would love to do it.
The 29-year-old Max Holloway, young Holloway, as Conor calls him. Very, very fitting.
Young Holloway.
Because even though he's so accomplished, he is still very young. He's on the right side of 30. So
very young.
That's hard to believe. Talking about two guys now moving into the co-main who are not on the right side of 30, Matt Brown is in his 40s. Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown. When you talk about a co-main event that you want to put your best foot forward on ABC, it doesn't get better than putting two legends in there, and Condit and Brown are both legends of this sport. I really enjoyed that fight. Great grappling exchanges, great reversals by Condit. Ultimately, he did enough to get his hand raised 2-1. What did you think about the co-main?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic. We a couple of times during this main card, and I was watching the prelims before you had gotten here. You were at your place, and I was like, man, these could be on ABC because some of these are very good fights. But then the matchmakers know what they're doing. That entire main card was just stacked, and they knew that they could put a couple legends in there that were gonna bring some blood, bring the pain, and give the people true UFC caliber MMA. And people that have never seen it before were probably blown away at the performance that Matt Brown and Carlos Condit had. Yep. Carlos Condit looked like a world beater. I mean, he looked really, really sharp in there. And I think he's just, at a new stage in his career. Matt Brown seemed a little upset about the decision, and I don't really get that. I think that it was clear.
I think Condit won.
I think he was mad probably that they didn't give him one round. I did kind of give Matt Brown the first round.
Oh, was it a 30-27?
Two judges had it 30-27.
Okay.
And one had it 29-28. And all for Condit, of course. And I think he thought that maybe everybody should have thought that he won the first round. But either way, he got dominated. And that it's kind of like the UFC's fight predictions versus me. Like, I literally lost every single fight that we predicted except for the main event. Yeah, you were right on this one, though. Condit got you a victory.
Yeah, I thought Condit was going to do it. And it's so funny when you talk about these two guys that are going to get in there and be bloodied up and have a war. Yeah. As we were sitting and watching it, my fiance made the comment, and as you know, she's an MMA fan now. She's a convert. We've been able to convert her, but before we got together, she was not into MMA or watched it, and so she didn't know who Carlos Condit or Matt Brown was, and her only comment was, I don't know who these two guys are, but I feel like both of their faces are going to be bloody at the end of this fight. And it's like, they come out to the heavy metal. These guys just look like MMA fighters. Certain guys just have that, and these guys have it in spades. That was the last fight on Carlos Condit's contract with the UFC. So he said he's 36. He looked great. He said he still wants to fight. He's won 2 fights on Fight Island. Mm-hmm. I was going to say this year, but we're in 2021 now. But within the last several months has won 2 fights on Fight Island. Matt Brown, he's 40. He said he was kind of one foot in and and out 1 foot out. Who knows what'll happen? But I'd like to see Carlos Condit keep fighting. I mean, I'm not one to call for legends to quit, especially if they're winning.
Yeah, and 36 isn't all that old. You know, he seems to take really good care of himself.
Yeah.
He's old as far as MMA age goes, but as far as a human, he's still a very young guy. 36 is not old. I think after the way he looked, and he didn't take a ridiculous amount of damage. He did take some shots, and Matt Brown was able to do what Matt Brown does, which is land some vicious elbows and kind of mix it up really well. But I think Carlos Condit, you know, he's one of those guys that they could really put young fighters up against for a true test. Because he's experienced.
Yeah.
He's been in there with everybody. He's beaten the who's who at 170. And if you got a guy that you think could be marketable or could have, you know, a good opportunity at moving forward in the division, throw him in there with Carlos Condit and just see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, he might knock him out. Yeah. Or might submit him.
Right. I mean, but do you think he'll stay in the UFC?
I would like to see it. I would like to see that.
I don't think they should get rid of him.
Yeah, I know the UFC is kind of on a legends cutting tour right now, but I don't want to see Carlos go. I think there's some fun fights to be made. I mean, they talked about Diego Sanchez is ready to do one more fight and retire.
Yeah.
Why not make it against Carlos Condit?
Yeah.
You know, I think Condit would win that fight pretty handedly, but I probably now the more I'm thinking through it as I'm saying,
be a mismatch.
It might be a mismatch. They might want to give Diego somebody that's not quite Carlos Condit, but I still think that there's a lot of fun fights for him at 170. I say put him on another 3-fight contract and let him finish it out at the UFC. I think I think he's earned that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I do want to mention, just because I don't want to forget about it, but I hope that recency bias doesn't hit us at the end of 2021, and I hope that people remember the fight that the Calvin Kattar and Max Holloway just gave us. And I know it was a little bit lopsided, but that was still a fight to the very end. And I think that as of right now, because there hasn't been that many fights, that's the fight of the year.
That's the fight of the year.
That's the number one fight of the year. I think there's going to be some more competitive matches that will dethrone it, but
you know what? This will be fun. Why don't we? Okay, so the Barnhill brothers in the calendar year 2021, we're going to let you guys, the fans, know if we think a fight has knocked off the fight of the year, and then we will let you know if something replaces that fight. So as it sits right now, Max Holloway, Calvin Kattar is the fight of the year.
Absolutely.
And we'll see what happens.
I think they both deserve maybe two $50,000 bonuses after that.
Yeah.
That was flawless for Max Holloway. But the first 3 fights on the card, the UFC, Dana White was probably blown away at how
talk
Sean
about
Shelby,
cutting some checks.
Yeah, Mick Maynard, how the matchmaking team, they're geniuses over there at the UFC.
Yeah.
The way they're able to just they know they have an opportunity, show up on ABC. Let's give these people exactly what they want to see. Boom, 3 first-round knockouts. Then you have a straight-up war with Matt Brown and Carlos Condit, and then you have an incredible flawless performance by Max Holloway. Like, this card delivered so perfectly for the debut of ABC that Dana's got to be very proud, and so does the matchmaking team.
And I mean, imagine if you bet a parlay on Alessio, Soriano, and Lee.
Yeah.
All 3 of them major underdogs. Well, not some of them were closer than others, but some of them.
Some were pretty big.
Lee was a pretty
3-1,
sizable
right?
underdog, 3-1 underdog. All 3 first-round knockouts.
Yeah.
Joaquin Buckley got knocked out. With a great head kick that was set up very well. One of the tendencies you notice with Joaquin Buckley is when somebody kicks low on him, he kind of reaches down and squats down for it. A really good striker will read that, and they'll send it to the leg a couple times, and they'll send it to the head.
Yeah.
And
once you create that dirty habit of sending your arm down, all it takes is a split second to send it above the shoulder. Yeah. And it's lights out.
Yeah, Soriano Todorovic was fun while it lasted, but Soriano proved to be just too much for him. He remains undefeated, really good prospect.
Yeah.
Lee putting on for China, man. I'm telling you, I said it the other day. China, Asia, but China specifically, watch out. The next decade, you're going to get some Chinese champions. I'm guaranteeing it.
And China's such
besides Zhang Wei Li already, but multiple.
And China's such a big market that, you know, he's the rare exception that I don't even know if he needs to learn English. It would really help, and I recommend that he do. But if he doesn't, he's still got a huge market to play into. But I'll just say that I never remembered him being entertaining on the microphone.
Yeah.
Or like after the fight, post-fight stuff, but he was entertaining. I think there's something to Lee.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I think he's got to find his character a little bit. But
there's something in there, yeah.
I'm along for the ride with Lee.
Little diamond in the rough there.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. 2020, if 2021 continues the way it started, it's going to be a great year of fighting.
That's for sure.
Please let us know in the comments what you thought about the main event. Let us know, do you guys think Max Holloway is the best 145er on earth right now? We certainly do. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video, and check us out on audio where you listen to podcasts.
One last thing, I want to formally apologize if you did take any of my predictions and bet money on them, because I lost you everything except for the Max Holloway fight. So
yeah, this skewed Nick's record.
But I guarantee Wednesday and next Saturday I will have some better predictions, and I can't wait to bring them to you.
There we go, guys. Have a great day.
Peace.